when I was 8 years old, my family and I were up north in northern Michigan. We were flying home, and the airplane tragically crashed and took the life of my mom, Julia, my sister, Lindsay, and my little brother, Ian. My dream was always play for Michigan. Coach B, he offered me a scholarship to play for him June 15th, 2011. But 9 days later, my dad, Steve, my second mom, Kim, and I were flying to northern Michigan this time, and the airplane crashed. Took the life of my dad, Steve, my second mom, Kim, and should have killed me too. By the grace of God, I'm here. Coach B from Michigan came to visit me in the hospital in Chicago when I couldn't walk, and he basically said, Austin, I can't wait to have you on my team someday. What I conclude from that is that his follow-through and his commitment didn't depend on the circumstance. And I think that's the most powerful thing we can do for people, is to convey to them that we believe in them.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to LED, Leadership with Ed. I'm Ed McGill, co-founder and partner of McGill Jungie Wealth Management, as well as the podcast host today. And I've continued this 35, 40-year journey of just understanding leadership, how to inspire others, and really evaluating and just learning from other great leaders. So I want to thank everyone again for joining us during this inaugural year of LED and joining us on Spotify, Apple Music, and then YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, primarily if you like the guests. People usually subscribe because of the guests we have coming up, and we got a lot of great shows coming. And just know that every other Wednesday morning is when the new episodes drop bright and early. And today, what's fun on the episode today, we have Austin Hatch, who, kind of a little known stat, is the lowest scoring scholarship player average in Michigan basketball history. So that's something I got right off his website. So that's him saying that. But also has an amazing story of just perseverance, grit, what you may, obviously call some tragedy and perseverance, but then how to elevate themselves beyond that. And we're going to spend time with Austin on just his story, but then also this leadership journey that he's been on and some of the mentors and leaders in his life. So this is going to be awesome. Austin Hatch, thanks for being on the podcast today.
Yeah, thanks, Ed, for having me. I really appreciate it. Look forward to our conversation.
Oh, going to be great. And, we're going to start off on a little more, just kind of somber note, because that is Austin's story and how he came to where he is today. If you go to his website on Overcome It, you'll see a 16-minute story that was done like on ABC, NBC, just on his journey. But why don't you, maybe in like that 5 or 6 minutes, talk about, as you described, really the only 2 bad days of your life, that you've had, but what happened? Because that shapes so much of what our discussion is going to be today, Austin.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it. And unfortunately, I faced a couple devastating tragedies in my life that have really had a profound impact on who I am today, and lost a tremendous amount, but I'm so grateful for my family in heaven, and I believe they're in a better place, and I believe I'll see them again someday. So when I was 8 years old, my family and I were up north in northern Michigan visiting my dad's parents, and so my dad Steve was a doctor in Fort Wayne. My mom Julie was an amazing homemaker and mom, and just an incredible woman. They were high school sweethearts. And then I had an older sister, Lindsay, who was 3 years older than me. She was an awesome big sister. A little brother, Ian, was 3 years younger. We had a great relationship, and our life was so good. I had an amazing family. But my dad we also had a small family plane that we'd fly to go visit family and stuff. And so we were flying home from northern Michigan, as I mentioned. And as we prepared to land, the airplane tragically crashed and took the life of my mom, Julia, my sister, Lindsay, and my little brother, Ian. So devastating loss, obviously. Incomprehensible loss. But, my dad and I pressed on and found ways to keep living in the midst of that. That kind of a loss is never something you really get through, so to speak.
Correct.
You never reach life with that in the rearview mirror. But, we did our best to honor the family that we lost by how we responded and how we loved each other, and kept living in the midst of that. And, life was pretty good, as best as it could be, right? My dad he was remarried a couple years later. We had a great blended family, amazing mom and 3 siblings, and life was good. And my dream was always play for Michigan. So my mom graduated in the class of '87. I know we got some Nebraska fans on here. Yeah, so my dream was always play for Michigan, and I was working really hard every day to make that dream a reality. So Coach Bielien called me the first day the college coaches could call high school recruits was June 15th, 2011.
And this is when you were a sophomore, if I remember correctly, in Fort
Yep.
Wayne. Is that correct?
Yep, in Fort Wayne and at Canterbury High School, and he came to see me play when I was. He came to see me play in February. I had a really good game, and he wanted to wait till he saw my transcript from the year because going to a place like Michigan, you got pretty good academics, right? So you got to be a student athlete to be able to handle the coursework and stuff. And once he saw I had pretty good grades, and he offered me a scholarship to play for him June 15th, 2011. Lifelong dream come true. Coach B, we committed to each other that day. Coach and I committed to each other that day, right? And I hope to have a great career at Michigan. I hope to. But 9 days later, my dad, Steve, my second mom, Kim, and I were flying to Northern Michigan this time. The same place we returned from when the first plane crashed in 2003. And tragically, again, hit some bad weather. I had to go to a different airport. And as we prepared to land again, the airplane crashed. Took life of my dad, Steve, my second mom, Kim, and should have killed me too. By the grace of God, I'm here. I was in a coma for about 2.5 months after that crash with a really bad traumatic brain injury, punctured lungs, 5 or 6 broken ribs, fractured clavicles. I was in really bad shape, right? I was in a coma for 2 months. But Coach B from Michigan came to visit me in the hospital in Chicago when I couldn't walk. They didn't know if I was ever going to walk ever again. And he basically said, Austin, I can't wait to have you on my team someday. I can't wait to coach you. Whenever you're able to come play for me at Michigan, man, I can't wait to coach you. So I think we'll talk about that more in a minute. But I had to find a way. I had to find a way to go from where I was in a wheelchair to joining the team at Michigan, one of the best programs in the country. So, yeah, I just had to find a way. And, I had an amazing team that helped me, doctors, nurses, therapists, family, and friends. I'm so grateful for everybody's contribution. I had the prayers of many people around the country praying for me and pulling for me, but more than anything, it took some grit. And I think we'll talk about that more.
What was amazing on the story, so Austin comes out of the coma, and when I read the article about him at Fort Wayne, he's averaging 24 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and then now in a coma and really had to learn how to walk again. And it was interesting that is really that junior, senior, and then almost like a transition year where you went to Loyola School in Los Angeles, and a coach named Jamal Adams really took you under his wing. And it sounds like maybe that was, besides Coach Bielien, another mentor, another leader that said, we can do this. Or did he have doubts? Or tell me a little bit about, going out to Loyola and you're really just learning how to walk, shoot, dribble again. Talk about that, as well as Rasheed Howard. Sounds like he was the physical therapist that just never doubted your ability to get back on the court.
Yeah, well, I had an incredible team of people. Obviously, Coach Bielien, but before Coach Bielien, Coach Adams at Loyola, and Rasheed Hazard, my trainer out there, who kind of helped me rehab.
Oh, Hazard. Okay, sorry about that. I said Howard. Hazard. Yep.
And helped me kind of relearn the game a little bit. Obviously, my abilities were still very limited due to my injuries and stuff like that. But it was incredible to work with them, and they believed in me. And I think that's the most powerful thing we can do for people, is to inspire them to believe in themselves and convey to them that we believe in them, right? Because I think people are only as capable of achieving what they actually believe to be possible. And if you believe it's possible, there's a pretty good chance it'll happen. It's not a guarantee, but if people, inspire you and support you and help you get to where you want to be, I think that's really one of the most powerful things we can do. And just, help people become the best of which they're capable. And I feel like for me in my journey, from all the amazing people that I had in my life and all the doctors, the physical therapists, and everybody else who helped me on my recovery, and then to transition to Coach Adams and Coach Hazard out in California, and Coach Bielien, I just had so many people who believed in me. And I really think back to it, and this is such a blessing. And I've never really thought about this before, but I don't think I had anybody in my life that was close to me who didn't believe in me, you know?
Oh, wow.
Who didn't believe that I could, find ways to, not only recover, but find ways to, and even if I wasn't get back to being able to play basketball at a high level like I used to be able to, just make the best of the situation. I had so many people in my life who supported me and loved me and believed in me, and yeah, I could go on and on.
Well, tell me about Coach Bielien, because I think even there probably was many a night where you're just laying there by yourself, the thoughts, the self-doubt, therapy. I saw some of the videos and things. That's not easy to go through. But with Coach Bielien, did you get the feeling like he truly wanted you on the team, or it was more kind of like monumental or like a great story to tell the other players? Or tell me, even once you got on the team, how did the team accept you? How did Coach Bielien treat you? Because in an era where scholarships are limited, that's pretty amazing that he honored it, because more than likely he knew that you weren't going to be all Big Ten. You weren't going to the NBA. You had this great story, but those spots are coveted. So tell us a little bit about some of your discussions about him and maybe your relationship even today.
Yeah, well, I think it's, what he did for me in honor of my scholarship changed the course of my life and my family forever. Because if he doesn't honor my scholarship, I don't meet my wife. We don't have our kids, right? So he's changed the trajectory of my family forever. And yeah, obviously, I'm sure. I mean, yeah, it's. But you don't honor $1 million deal to an 18-year-old kid because it's a cool story, right? Like you do, because Coach Bielien always told us. He said, "Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do." He said, "Just do the next right thing because it's the right thing to do." Like in any area of your life, and as a leader though, what good is it to say that if you're not living that way yourself? So how can my teammates have that belief and trust in him that he's that and when he's telling us to do that, if he's not doing it, and so I think the biggest thing, obviously this is probably self-explanatory, but as leaders, I think we need to model the behavior that we're expecting others to have. And I think Coach Bielien, there's no better example of this. Of doing the next right thing, because following through, we'll talk about this a little more later on, I'm sure, but honoring a scholarship, like when you're going to get what you thought you were going to get, when the player's going to help you win championships, that's pretty easy to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But when he can't, like me, I assume from his perspective, I'm sure he had thoughts, that he could use my scholarship for somebody else. Obviously, he had those thoughts. A college basketball coach is running a business.
And under a ton of pressure. Yep.
It's $100 million enterprise, more or less, right? There's a lot of pressure to win games and win championships. And, but it's, Coach Bielien, he just did it. He even told me, there was never a doubt in my mind, because at Michigan, if we make a promise to someone and we're going to give them a scholarship, we honor it. This is what we do at Michigan. And when I speak to companies and organizations around the country, I talk about that idea, because that alone it's a fairly simple concept. Just do what you said you're going to do. But if a business, if a team, if an enterprise, if a family, if an organization, if people know us as people, if Ed, Austin, Northwestern Mutual, whoever, if they made a promise and they said they're going to do this, they're going to get it done. It's just what they do. Of course they're going to follow through. I feel like if we can be known as those kind of people, we're gonna be successful.
Well, I love, hopefully everyone wrote this down, is, do the next right thing. It's really just kind of like, whether it be stacking days of discipline, if you're doing workouts, if you're, studying, etc. But in what Coach Bielien was saying is, you're just stacking doing the next right thing. Just always continue to do the next right thing. And, as you came out of Michigan, I know you started in the Dominos corporate office, but then was more pulled by just the intrigue of how do you shape, others. And I read some of the different, quotes where, we're not defined by our circumstances. I believe it can be defined by how we choose to respond. And then you've created this GRIT, acronym and platform for overcoming adversity. Maybe talk about this transition from corporate American saying, I'm doing fine. Domino's a great corporation, but that's you could probably sense that that wasn't your calling. How did it merge now into this leadership development where you're impacting so many across the country?
Obviously Domino's is an amazing company and great people there. And I was so blessed to have that job right out of college. And I interned there for 2 summers while I was in college, and then worked there full time for a couple years afterwards. But it was just amazing people there. And I had a boss who's no longer there. He's with a different company now, but named Matthew Wallace is his name. Great guy. And he so I started speaking while I was in college. A few times. I did maybe 4 or 5 engagements when I was in college, just kind of getting started. Didn't really know I could do this for a living. And then I would get asked to speak when I was at Domino's, and my boss, Matthew Wallace, he'd let me go. He'd say, go do your thing, man. Make sure you're getting your stuff done here. But he's like, I understand you have a unique calling and situation, and this is part of your purpose for being here is to inspire the people. So he kind of endorsed my side hustle, which was obviously kind of a unique circumstances, but amazing that he did that. And November of 2019, the Friday before Thanksgiving, 2019, was my last day at Domino's. And then I left to pursue the speaking thing full time. And because I built it up to that point, where it was good, and I was traveling a lot, and I got a lot of opportunity, and I actually had more opportunities come in than I could say yes to because I only had. He couldn't let me go.
You only had so many days if you're still working.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So then I left Domino's and had a good December, good January, good February, and we all know what happened in early March of 2020 when everything shut down. But I've been blessed to speak over 100 times virtually, and we've built a nice little business. And it's been an amazing ride. It's been a lot of fun. And been very, very fulfilling and rewarding. So,
well, that is kind of funny. You think about the adversity hitting again. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this. You tell Abby, hey, I got this. I'm leaving the steady paycheck. I think I can, book enough events and speaking. And then COVID hits, and you're like, okay, honey, let's get some more Zoom equipment because we're going a little bit undercover and rogue. Talk about the grit, which is one of the foundational pieces. It is interesting. The more I hear leadership speakers or motivational speakers, there are these acronyms that people like grabbing onto because it just resonates and they can understand it. Talk a little bit about your acronym of grit and how you're applying that. And then when you're speaking to these corporations, how are leaders then implementing that into their own team?
Yeah. So I talk about grit in the context of my journey, overcoming the challenges that I face, and especially the road to recovery from the second plane crash when I was coming out of the coma and stuff, and trying to make it to Michigan. A lot of things had to happen, and I couldn't have done it without the support and love and prayers of many. But as I said, more than anything, it took some grit.
Go through each one of the letters and what they stand for, and help people understand that, because I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, for sure, we'll do. So my friend Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania.
Oh, you're friends with Angela? That is one of the world-class writers of the book Grit, everyone out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say, I'm not like super close to her. Obviously, we've connected a few times over email. And she says that grit's passion and perseverance for the long-term vision, for your long-term goal. She says grit's about working really hard every day to make that future long-term goal a reality. That's true, no doubt, right? Grit does apply to the long-term, no doubt. But I think about, for me, in my journey, in the context of overcoming the stuff that I had to, and even in my life today, because grit didn't only apply to my road to recovery, it still applies today to what I'm trying to build. So I think it's defined a little more specifically than just working hard for the long-term goals. So it's 4 letters, 4 key components to it. But first and foremost, I believe grit is driven by greater purpose. I think we need to be driven by something bigger than ourselves. Whether that's your faith, family, friends, teammates, colleagues, right? The organization, whatever the greater purpose is, I think we need to be driven by something bigger than ourselves that'll drive us to always be willing to do what it takes. Because here's the thing, if it's just for you or me, Ed, it'd be nice if you overcame this challenge or achieved this goal, but it's only really for me. So I'm not really sure that it's worth all the time and effort and sacrifice that it's going to take. But if it's for a greater purpose, for something bigger than yourself, whatever that is for you, we're always going to be willing to do what it takes. We're always going to be willing. And that's what I think a lot of life and business comes down to. Obviously, having the best business plan, the best game plan in sports, the best strategy, that's very important. But I think the team that's going to win, however you define winning, the team that's going to win in business and in life is usually going to be the team that's the most willing. The most willing to do the hard work, the most willing to do what it takes, the most willing to, right, just sacrifice. So, and I think if we have a greater purpose for why we do what we do, we're always going to be willing. So
Austin, let me just state that for the group here, because I think that's helpful to write that down. That, you know, they talk about discipline or, you know, hard work, and sometimes you can just grind through things, but you're going to run into roadblocks where you're just like, I don't want to do that today. But if you have that greater purpose, you know exactly why you're doing what you're doing. That's when you can always pull that back up into the memory bank and say, okay, here's why I'm getting up at 5 a.m. or here's why I'm staying late to do this project, etc. So what you found from great teams, if there is this greater purpose and everyone pulling together, then at least more energy, more ability to sustain, you know, that drive for excellence then is what I think I heard you say.
For sure, 100%. You know, and we're competing for our teammates, for our colleagues, for, you know, making the effort to bring the best that we can be every single day. So purpose drives grit. And feel free to, you know, stop me at any point whenever you have some interjections or points to make. So, first start, growth mindset. Growth mindset views adversity as opportunity. I really believe that challenges are opportunities. There's not an opportunity in the challenge itself, but the opportunity is in how we choose to respond. It's a choice to have the growth mindset. It's a choice to lead with the growth mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's also a choice to, you know, and I would say it's the more common choice to have the victim mindset. Feel a little sorry for yourself. Oh man, life would be so much better if I wasn't dealing with this challenge or this adversity. You know, why is it easy for other people? It's not, right? Well, I think we kind of inherently have a little bit of the victim mentality. I feel a little sorry for ourselves, understandably so. And I think, you know, for me in my journey, I think I have the right to have those feelings temporarily. But I think if we want to achieve our goals in the face of adversity, we got to shift from the victim mindset to the growth mindset.
Ooh,
just choose to find a way. And I think from a leadership standpoint, you know, I think back to my time at Michigan, you know, with Coach Bielien, one of the greatest leaders I've ever been around. And, you know, whenever we didn't lose many games when I was at Michigan, but we obviously lost some. And every time after we'd lose, Coach would come in the locker room, you know, he'd get on us and he'd yell and he'd brave his voice. He'd be disappointed, like any coach does, right?
Yep.
But then he would say every single time, we're going to watch the film of the game and find a way to get better from it. We're going to watch the film and get better from it. And I think in life and business and anything, that the same idea applies. Like obviously we're not recording every business meeting or every client meeting, so you can't literally watch the film and get better from it. But I think if things go well, great. Well, why did it go well? We need to remember, like, okay, that's something we should continue to do, right? Or if it didn't go well, okay, maybe it was them, maybe they were just a difficult client, but there's probably something that I did that could have influenced the outcome too. So like, we need to look at every adversity, every challenge as a learning opportunity. And I think it's just a great way to lead. I think it's a great way to lead, just to always look for the opportunity to improve. Like, how can we use this to grow and get better? I think it's just learning to lead and just choosing to lead with the growth mindset, just choosing to believe there's always an opportunity to grow and get better. It's a great way to lead. It's a great way to live life, great way to do business. So,
okay, good. So we got the foundational piece of the growth mindset. Now move us to R.
So the R is the decision to be resilient. And I think I don't think you're resilient if you bounce back from challenges and achieve your goals. Like, I don't think I'm resilient because, you know, I made it to Michigan after being in 2 plane crashes, being in a coma after the second one for 2 months. I'm not resilient because I overcame it and achieved my goal. I think I'm resilient because I took action every single day.
Oh, I love that.
I think resilience is the decision to take absolutely massive action in the face of adversity. And I think overcoming your challenges and achieving your goals is the byproduct of that. It's the result of taking massive action every single day. You know, my dad, my hero, he always said, "Go big or go home." He said, "Go big or go home." And that's what resilience is to me. Resilience is just deciding to go big in the face of adversity and deciding to take massive action. And I think overcoming your challenges, as I mentioned, I think there's almost no way, in no way we're not going to overcome our challenges and achieve our goals if we don't take massive action every single day.
And I would have everyone write that down, because what Austin just said there, he didn't develop resiliency, or he wasn't resilient because of what he went through. He became resilient by taking courageous action each and every day. It was almost like a muscle, this resiliency muscle, and you're going, I have to exercise this every day. I have to get up. I have to stretch. I have to do all these painstaking therapies and etc. That's what over time developed that muscle of resiliency versus someone just being born with it. We probably all have the same ability to develop that muscle, but those that take action are the ones that are going to develop that, is what I heard.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing. I think that muscle, the so to speak, resilience muscle.
I think we just made up a term there, Austin. I like that. The resilience muscle.
That muscle is not strengthened, or it's not just going to get strong when you need it. I think we need to strengthen that muscle by how we respond to challenges every single day. I think I learned that muscle. I learned resilience from seeing how my dad responded to the first accident. And, in 2003, he bounced back. He got back to living his life and set an example for me, obviously under very unfortunate circumstances. But I think it brings up a whole other issue about how important it is for us as parents to set an example for our kids, right? But I think about that as a young dad now too. It's like, our son Hudson, who's 3, he repeats everything. He he sees how I treat his mom. He sees how I do everything. He's paying attention. And I think my dad knew that. I think my dad knew that was obviously under very unfortunate circumstances. That was a great teaching opportunity for him to show me how to respond.
Yeah, because you were 8 and very impressionable, and you're watching him to see how he responds. Does obviously a huge time of mourning, because I saw the story and how much the family meant to him, and obviously tremendously hard to get through. But saying, I still do have Austin here underneath me watching, and I need to set an example for him. And then that allowed you to see that resiliency in your own self and develop that muscle. It was cool to see how close you were to your dad, and just all the great stories and his belief in you as well too. So, that resonated, and I'm sure with Hudson, and then you also have a daughter that you think about that a lot. And I'm glad you mentioned real quick, this totally off topic, but when you said they're watching how you treat your wife, because really the greatest gift a father can give their kids is by loving and respecting and treating their mom well, because it creates just stability, calmness. Okay, my dad loves my mom. This is where I'm going to be, and et cetera. So a little off topic there, but I'm glad you said that, because that's a powerful lesson that both your son and daughter can learn of, just how to love your spouse, and then create that environment for them to grow and develop. So congrats on that, then, that recognizing that early.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm only 30. We're only 7 years into this marriage thing, but I've learned a few things, and but yeah, it's so much fun. My wife is an incredible wife, an incredible mom. I'm so grateful for her and so blessed to have her, and our kids are so blessed to have her too. Yeah.
What a great compliment. And hopefully they listen to this at some point and hear you say that about their mom, and that will resonate. Tell us about because that's a big one, because we saw that with Jim, with Coach.
So with integrity, obviously it's going about our business the right way, doing the right thing, and nobody's looking. Obviously, very important.
Mm-hmm.
In the financial services space, we obviously have a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interest of our clients, or however the language reads. Obviously that kind of integrity is very important. But in addition to that, I think integrity includes following through on our commitments, especially when the circumstances change, right? Like, following through on our commitments is never easy, but it's easier when the conditions are stable, when the conditions are what we expect, right? I make you this promise, okay, everything's good, okay, yeah, I'm going to follow through on it, because as I told you I would. Most of the time that happens. But when circumstances change, the follow through is harder. And I think it's a little more uncommon for people to follow through on commitments when circumstances change. So obviously, as I mentioned, Coach Bielien offered me a scholarship to play for him June 15th, 2011, and playing at a pretty high level. He thinks I can help his team win on the court. I have to get a lot better. I'm only a sophomore in high school, but I think he saw if I would have continued to progress, I could have helped this team win. 9 days later, the second plane crash happened. Should have killed me. Put me in a coma for 2 months, and I came out of that coma. I couldn't walk. Obviously, basketball was not even on the radar at this point. I was just trying to get back to being able to live life independently. But coach basically said when I was in the wheelchair, essentially, he said, Austin, man, I can't wait to have you on my team someday. Whenever you're able to come play for me in Michigan, I can't wait to coach you. So what I conclude from that, among other things, is that his follow-through and his commitment didn't depend on the circumstance. He made a commitment, so I made a commitment, right? And I think as leaders, that's how our team should know us. Yeah, if Ed, Austin, if they made a commitment, they're going to get it done. They're going to follow through on their commitment, what they told me they're going to do. And I think more importantly, as a team, if the whole team can buy into that, or as I think I mentioned a few minutes ago, like if we could be known as that kind of a team, that kind of an organization, if we always follow through on our commitments, no matter the task, no matter the circumstance, whether it's collective, like individual, like amongst ourselves or amongst our clients, like whoever it is, customers, if we're always following through on our commitments, no matter what, that can only help us win. And just a really quick story about this. So I kind of going a little bit off topic again.
We like that though. Let's go rogue.
Yeah, but a great example of it. So I'm going to talk about this when I speak. So my dad, as you alluded to earlier, my dad and I were so close. He was one of the greatest men of all time. I learned so much from him and how he did business, how he treated people and stuff. And I learned a lot more by seeing him do things than I did from him telling me how to do things, right? And so he would drive carpool 2 days a week on the way to school. On the way to pick up my buddy and his little sister at their house, we'd stop by McDonald's in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the north side of town, DuPont Road. If anyone in here knows Fort Wayne, probably not. But so the guy at the pickup window at McDonald's every time was a guy named Josiah. Josiah was always there every single time. And instead of just getting the food and driving away, my dad would take an extra couple of seconds just to tell Josiah he appreciated him, valued him, thanked him for what he did. Said, look forward to seeing you next time, man. Make it a great day. You'll be in my prayers. Like a super small thing. My dad would see, 30 or 40 or 50 patients every day. He was busy. But he just took 2 or 3 seconds twice a week to let this guy know that he mattered.
Yeah, mattered.
And he saw. And I was talking to a family friend of mine last summer, about my parents' funeral for some reason. And I wasn't there. I was in a coma fighting for my life. But, she said, I was asking for whatever reason about, who was all there. Obviously, a very tragic, circumstance with people sad about the loss of my dad and second mom and everything. But, and obviously the friend, family, you'd expect to be there. But then she said Josiah from McDonald's was there. He was at their funeral after my dad and second mom died. And obviously that says a lot about Josiah and the kind of care and the kind of caring guy he was. But I think it says more about who my dad was, and the impact that he made just by taking a metaphorical 2 or 3 seconds twice a week at McDonald's to let him know that he cared about him, and then he appreciated him, So I think, again, as leaders, if we could all do that, everybody's very important. And I think that's what, that's what Coach Bielien did for me in a different way. Like, I couldn't help the team. I scored 1 point in 4 years. But he included me in the program, and yeah. So I think again, I think just if we could all just go a little bit above and beyond to try to lead people better than we found them, feel like that's a good way to lead. It's a good way to do business.
And Austin, 2 things as you were saying that, I was thinking about every 2 days. I'm sure your Josiah knew when those 2 days were. So if he's at the drive-through window, he's also taking the orders typically or sometimes. So he hears your dad's voice, and I bet he just couldn't wait till your dad got up to the window. Just that excitement of 2 days that was going to be there. And, it's interesting as you talk about your situation with my dad and things that stick, in your memory as a kid. Ours was kind of an opposite situation where, my dad had lost his job. We had the government cheese, food stamps, lost the house, kind of, those are things that shaped me growing up. But one thing I'll never forget, we were going to it was like my flag football game or middle school tackle. I can't remember, but we were in my dad's truck and he was parallel parking. and he barely sideswiped this car as he was parking. And no one would have known. I mean, it was a scratch, but, no one's around on there. And when you said of doing the right thing regardless of circumstances, I watched him take out a piece of paper, write his name and number. Here's what I did. Call me, etc. And if you have money, I mean, that's doing the right thing still. But when you don't have money, when you're like, wow, that was not good, and I'm not sure how I'm actually going to pay for this, but he would have done it whether I was sitting in the car anyway. But the fact that I saw him do that, like, that has stuck in my mind of doing the right thing, having integrity, regardless of circumstances, because I don't know how he and my mom came up with the money to pay that, on that side. So it's awesome to hear your dad's stories. I love sharing that story about Josiah and that he came to the funeral, and then just kind of maybe a little different perspective on, doing the right thing when it's just not easy financially to be able to do that. So I think we both had awesome dads. So that's pretty cool to hear. When you think of T and this teamwork, tell me a little bit about that, and who was the best leader on the Michigan team? Take it away from coach, but you always have glue guys. There's actually a podcast with Alex Smith and oh God, I'm drawing a complete blank, but called Glue Guys, where who are those team members that keep the team together? So I'll have you talk about just teamwork in general, but who were some of the glue guys on that Michigan basketball team?
Yeah, well, I think it's guys that like Spike Albrecht, Mo Wagner. Mo's in the NBA, playing in the NBA now. Great guy though, great guy. We we had a lot of great guys on the team. But yeah, it starts with Coach B though, right? Just the way that he led us, and I think Coach Bielien's definition of leadership is one of the best ones I've ever heard. And he said it. Coach said, and obviously the coach, obviously like winning his coach in men's basketball or in Michigan history. He obviously won Coach of the Year. He's obviously extremely successful. Won probably 3 or 4 Big Ten championships in the 14 years he was there. Won the Big Ten championship almost a third of the time.
Yeah.
He was a very, very good coach on the court, but he was just an amazing guy. And I think what he said about leadership, though, he said a leader is someone who's very humble yet very confident, and who others will follow because that leader has shown that he or she genuinely cares about those he's leading. Right? That he genuinely cares about them. And I think when people know that, like kind of like what I mentioned earlier, like what Coach Bielien did for me, right? This is not me saying this is the only example that made my teammates feel this way. But when you see a coach that does what he did for me and what he did for all my other teammates too, the investment that he would make in them, and the time, and the when you as the leader, or when the players or the employees or whoever, when they know the leader cares about them and cares more about them as people than he or she does about just their output, what they produce, right? I mean, I think they'll run through a brick wall for him. And yeah. I think the thing about that is we obviously Michigan, the team was always very talented, but I think we always overperformed. Basic, obviously we had good ability, but probably nobody in the entire country picked Michigan to go to the championship game my senior year, or at least very few would pick us to go to the national championship game my senior year. Obviously, we lost to Villanova. Hats off to them. Great team, great program. But we always overperformed, and I think that's the reflection of a leader. When a leader can get teams collectively to achieve way more than what anybody thinks they should be able to, I think that's the sign of effective leadership. One of the many.
Awesome. For those of you that heard him say that, he said humble and confident. Ross, who's the Jungie in McGill Jungie, always talks about being confidently humble, because there's nothing wrong with being confident in your abilities. That's different than arrogance, to be confident that, I've put in the time, I've put in the effort, I've got the skill set, But then a humble person is someone that realizes they don't have all the answers. They can work on, if it's business, they can work on certain skill sets. If it's in sports, I can, improve my range on my 3-pointer. I can work on, my ball handling, and in sports, I can be a better leader. I can elevate others. I can do things, and just realizing I don't know all the answers. So that confidently humble, that's funny now that you said that, because as soon as you said it, it just clicked, with Ross, my business partner, on my mind. So he'll get a kick out of that when he listens to this, because that's always been his trade line. And the last thing I'd ask you, Austin, you're only 30. You got this great wife and 2 young kids. And when we were talking before, you said, there may be more hatches coming on the side here. What's the next 10 years look like? Because you also have to balance time. And, when you're a speaker, you're traveling, on that side. But what's the next 10 years look like for you in your leadership development?
Yeah, well, I think, my goal is to continue to build this speaking business. There's so much runway left, so much potential, so much growth opportunity out there. Obviously, I think I'm at 24 Northwestern Mutual offices. I think it's 24 or 25. So, and there's about 82 nationwide, right? So like, if that math is right, I got about, 57.
Because Austin knows McGill Jungi's affiliated with Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. And so he's been making his way to the different agencies and offices across the country.
I was saying, there's a lot more opportunity out there. In what other businesses, what other ventures we pursue in the future. Maybe I should have a better game plan for the next 10 years. But besides building the speaking business and, God willing, more kids, I don't really have a specific measurable game plan, which is something I need to work on. That's a growth opportunity for me, right? Growth mindset. But yeah, so it's I'm going to continue to try to inspire as many people as I can to overcome their challenges. Because here's the good thing. It's not a good thing. People will continue to face adversity, and I'll continue to face adversity. You will, like my family will, and I just feel very blessed to be in a position to inspire other people to find ways to overcome it. And my goal is not for everybody to adopt, like all of those who listen. You don't have to adopt everything I said today. I mean, it'd be nice if you did, but my goal every time I speak, and this is kind of a lofty goal. My goal is for each person in the room, whether it's 100, 500, 1,000, whatever. My goal is for each person in the room to take away one thing that I say. That'll hopefully be of value to them as they go back to their businesses or lead their teams or lead their families or whatever. Whether that be the growth mindset or the resilience or the integrity or team first mentality. And I guess one last thing I'll say about the team first mentality, just in closing, then you can finish up with whatever remarks you need to add. What I learned about my time at Michigan, obviously I would have loved to have a bigger role on the team and score and rebound and play defense and help the team win games on the court. But obviously my injuries took away my ability. And what I learned is that even if we're not the best on the team, we can still make the effort every single day to be the best that we could be for the team. Right.
Love that.
Whatever team you're on, business, family, sports, even if you're not the best on your team, you can make the effort every single day to be the best you can be for your team. So, and that's how I approach my business now. Is how I approach my family, my life, and I try to lead that way and inspire others to do the same. So.
Well, no, that's a great way to end that component, and we're going to be putting in the chat in the comments Austin's website where you can reach out to him, overcome it. It's pretty amazing. And as he was describing what he went through before we close, I would just encourage you, as you think that you're having challenges or going through tough times or bad days, just to think of Austin's story. I remember one of the best things a friend of mine did, John Folkert. I was kind of in a tough spot, and I was saying, God, here's what's not going well, or I'm struggling here, or this doesn't seem right. I can't remember what it was. And he goes, hey, I'm going to send you a book. I want you to read it, and then tell me if you're having a bad day. And the book that he sent me was Lone Survivor with Mark Luttrell, who, the famous Navy SEAL that lost, 3 of his teammates, had to crawl through. I mean, you just read this and what he went through, and the loss he had, and then just what he had to do to survive and live. And I called John back and I go, yeah, sorry for that phone call. You know, what I'm going through is like a 1 on a scale of 10. Doesn't mean that we don't have gusts of 4, 5s, and 6. There are going to be those challenges and things, but I would just urge everyone to keep it in perspective as well too as you go through these things. And I think if you spend time on Austin's website, you watch that 16-minute video, you can realize what true adversity is and overcoming on that, but also to have the perspective to say, because I remember he told Coach Bielien this, I've only had 2 bad days in my life, and to be able to talk about that. And that was just such a kind of refreshing or reframing, of that. So I encourage everyone to spend time there. This has been awesome, Austin. Love having you on here and hearing more about your story. Appreciate everyone joining today. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, etc. But this is Ed McGill, host of the podcast Leadership with Ed, signing off. And thanks for joining Austin today. And Austin, appreciate you being on, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, Ed. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.